everyone, I'm back and I am with Sebastian Cruze. Sebastian helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs free up their time so they can create a bigger impact on their lives and on their clients' lives. So welcome, Sebastian. I'm so happy to have you on the show, and we will talk about purpose and drive and all that good golly stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathi, for having me be here. I'm excited to chat.
Absolutely. So before you started getting into helping entrepreneurs find their purpose and have their drive and their mojo back, what did you do before that?
So that time in my life, all I cared about was the money, was looking good, making money, all these different things. And I started with a web design agency. And that web design agency, when I was 20 years old, we started scaling really quickly. We grew and grew. We 11x'd our revenue in 9 months, and our team grew to 25 full-time team members. And so that was when I was introduced to a certain mentor, and that was like a spiritual type of mentor. And he started talking about like purpose, like what are you truly here to do in this lifetime? Who's your true self? And he shared something with me called the soul contract. It's like a personality profile. And so it like really connected with me. I was like, wow, this is incredible resonance. Nothing that I had ever looked at before had connected with me so deeply. So I remember after the call, though, I was like, wow, that's all amazing. I'll focus on that when I'm retired and rich. I went, wow. So I went and kept doing my same old patterns. And lo and behold, as the company got bigger, the things in my soul contract started showing more and more, kind of like the resistance patterns, the negative beliefs, the negative habits, and it ended up imploding. Company imploded for a number of different reasons. So in that moment, everything that I held dear was taken away from me. You know, the money, the status, all these different things. I moved back in with my mom at the time, which to a boy with an ego was just like a dagger in the chest. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, that was my lowest moment. So I had to let go of all the team members, went into debt, and that's where I actually just found myself in the fetal position, just wanting to end it all. I was like, man, I'm trying to do a good thing here, and I just want to be done. And in that moment, I realized that something inside of me would never let me take that final step, which I was like, it was even more depressing because I was stuck. And so then some moments passed by, and then that's when I felt the energy of my purpose rise up within me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where to go, but I just knew that my life here was meant to serve people in a big way and to leave something behind that would help people beyond, that would help people when I was gone from this planet. And so that's what started my journey, is to follow that feeling of purpose.
Wow, that's so funny. So you met the mentor, and then how much time lapsed before you were made to shift into something else?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was about 6 to 9 months would be my guess, 6 to 12 months.
It's so funny how you get that knock, you get the knock in your soul, you know, and you're like, nah,
yeah. Right.
And then it's like, oh, okay, I guess I am supposed to be changing and doing something different. So after you decided that you were going to start a new company, what did you call your company, and what was like the mission?
Well, the interesting thing is, after that moment, I started following that feeling, because I looked in my life, where do I feel this feeling? And that was in the spiritual training. So I started going through his work with working basically with the subconscious, releasing blocks in the subconscious so we can have more freedom, more prosperity flow. And so that led me to starting my second company, which is an SEO company, search engine optimization. Mm-hmm. And the journey there is that when I was in the web design agency, I was working 100-hour work weeks. And that's all I knew how to do, is work harder, put more time in. And through this shift of really aligning my subconscious mind with freedom, on the other side of that was getting my SEO company to 1 hour a week. So that 100 hours to 1 hour a week shift happened. And so that was the second phase.
Wow, 1 hour a week. That's pretty amazing. So after that, then you shifted into?
So then the third chapter is starting my company, True Freedom. And that was really, I had self-made passive income now for nearly 10 years. And that's given me the space to really dive into like, what do I truly love doing, what I truly care about. And all this came together to focus on helping people with freedom, freeing up their time so they can do what they love. You know, spend the time with the people you want to spend time with, give to the place you want to give, and do the work that really lights you up. And that's really what I'm passionate about, is helping people do that.
That's fantastic. So talk to me about your first client, and what type of person was your first client, and how did it feel when you landed them?
Let's see. Well, it started happening like it was with close friends and close colleagues that I was just sharing things with, just my own process with like kind of the freedom method. And what happened is people started just having their time freed up. Like I had a good friend of mine, he had a 50-hour-a-week agency, and through the conversations we had, freed him up to down to 10 hours. And then in that process, he actually doubled his income, and then he was able to have time to write his book. So I guess that was kind of like the first client that just kind of like happened, you know, just without even really looking, or without trying to, basically. Yeah.
Right. And that's what happens too. I think the right people walk into your life that are ready. Once you start resonating with your message, you start resonating with your purpose, then the people show up to say, hey, I need that, or I can support that, right?
Absolutely. And that's been a big journey for me, because I've realized the more I'm more authentic with who I truly am, the more those right connections come. And it's kind of a difficult journey for me, because I had like a lot of layers of wanting to look a certain way or be preserved a certain way, and letting those go more and more, so it could just be the realness could come through, the authenticity.
Yeah. We all build up a lot of facades, especially as entrepreneurs. We're like, this is who I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I was talking, this is who I'm supposed to serve. And we even had to talk about serving on another podcast. Are we serving someone, or are we really, helping and enabling? We're not really giving ourselves, we're giving them to themselves, I think. Yeah. So, okay. So you've been doing this for a while, and I'm sure at some point you felt a little bit overwhelmed and just ready to make a change. What would be your advice for others who are in this situation? Well, like you were back whenever you were on the money train, just, what would be your best piece of advice to create more freedom for these people?
First thing is get clear on why you're here. Why are you here on this planet? What is everything moving towards? Because that's the North Star. And I truly believe that we all have natural talents to fulfill that purpose, that calling, that mission. And if we're not focused on that, then those gifts don't come through us, those special talents. So number one, it's like, let's get clear on what direction you're going in. And you don't need to like know your purpose, like, to a T. It'll always evolve and clarify, but at least like, let's get clear on the true direction. And from that, I find that people start making different decisions, because we're really looking at what you're here to do. That would be the first piece. Second piece is, I really believe in a person's zone of genius. So it's like, what is the thing that you love doing that you deliver the most value at? And really honing in on that, because then that's where you can get paid the most too, and you love doing it. So it's like, let's build the business around that zone, not your zone of excellence, which is a trap that people fall into, myself included, because if we're good at it, we can get paid for it. People want us to do it, but it's not really our zone of genius where we can be best. So focusing on that would be the second step. And I'll pause there.
I totally appreciate that, because I felt like for years I was on the money train. We had the ad agency and the printing agency and the, PR agency, and, it was the money track. It was, excellence, right? But not the soul path, So I kept saying, what do I want to do when I grow up? And it took a while. It takes a while sometimes to figure out what your soul path is. And I totally agree, Sebastian, too, that it's, you have your genius zone, and you are an expert at something, but because you're an expert doesn't mean that that's your genius zone. It could just be something, right? Something else. So, because you can be really good at something, but it's not really your jam. Well, just like you with your past agencies, it's like really good at it, but same time, it's like not quite right. So tell me about the best piece of advice that anybody's ever given you as an entrepreneur.
Oh, let's see. Best piece of advice.
Yeah.
Hmm. So many different angles.
Yeah, there are. It's wide open.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Well, I would say on the freedom track, the biggest lever point is the subconscious. That's what I found. Because, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, the subconscious mind is 100 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. So when I was working with the freedom clients, we first just started just using the conscious mind, like using very powerful personality profile tools like the soul contract, wealth dynamics, human design, and we focused on the conscious mind strategies. Things went to a totally different level when a mentor recommended that I start using the subconscious tools. And
Mm.
so that's where I just found like everything just became easy, because a person might know what to do, but maybe their parental imprint was their mom and dad telling them like, hey, you got to work every hour of the day. And if you don't, then you're lazy. So it's like imprints like that will happen. And I find that without clearing those subconscious blocks, people will clear their schedule, but then it will just fill back up. They'll hire the team, but then they will still be involved running it. So that would be my like biggest piece is working with the subconscious because then it just becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, that's great advice. And how do you recommend that people tap into the subconscious for someone who's listening, saying, that all sounds good, Sebastian, but how do I find how do I listen to my subconscious mind? How do I tap into that?
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's a great question because there's a ton of stuff online, right? There's you search subconscious on YouTube, you get a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So, what my favorite tool is developed by an Irish doctor, and when she had her awakening, her realization, she was so sick of seeing all these patients come in, and modern medicine was just addressing their symptoms with drugs and things that was not getting to the root cause. So,
Mm-hmm.
what she did, she mapped out all these different ailments in the body to points in the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So that tool is what I use, and what I'm in the process of doing is putting together a free webinar where people can just experience it and do it multiple times if they want. Because I know for myself, I can talk about subconscious all day, but it doesn't matter until you feel it. I really believe that feeling the difference. And so I can send you a link here at truefreedom.ai/organize. I can put
Uh-huh.
together, yeah, for your wonderful audience here, I can put together um, a free video where you can experience the subconscious clearing. You'll go in with something that feels heavy, something like a burden, something you want clarity on. Do the process, and then you'll feel lighter, literally in your body. You'll feel the weight lifted, and you'll get clarity, and that'll all be for free.
What a great gift. Yeah. And the link will be below, gang. So feel free to just click on the link below the podcast. If you're listening, Sebastian said it and you can rewind and hear that again. But that's a really good gift because it reminds me a lot. You said that it was an Irish doctor that had, kind of put bodily ailments with soul. Louise Hay did something like that too. It's like, oh, if you have a liver problem, it's probably could be this in your subconscious. I think there's something definitely about that. And I think that universal truth is always told multiple times by multiple people in different ways. And so
Mm,
it's who you're going to resonate with. Obviously, you resonated with the Irish doctor, but it's great because it's universal truth and that's what it's all about. And our universal truth is our soul. So
mm.
there you go. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think Louis Hay, I think it was messages from the body. That's a tool that I use. It's like a diagnostic tool. Yeah, I totally agree with what you said.
Yeah, I think that's great. So what do you feel as far as just physically, I am a professional organizer. What tool do you use to keep your business organized at this point, whether it's contacts or time or mail, or do you have anything that you really really like that you're jamming out on right now tech wise?
Hmm. Yeah, I like to keep it simple. Asana is what I personally use, Asana, Google Calendar, just like the basics.
Yeah.
Something that I find, and this is probably going to be a little polarizing, is I know a lot of people in the productivity space are really into like tools and systems and apps of like technology pieces. And I think that's great. The one thing that I really draw a line with is the difference though between productivity and efficiency. Because what I notice is a lot of productivity is optimizing, 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 getting the most out of your day, which is great. But the question I ask is like, are you even going in the right direction? And it's like if you're, if the productivity car is just speeding down the highway, but it's going the wrong way, it's still speeding down the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you busy just being busy?
Yes.
Are you stuck in busyness? Is what I ask all the time, or are you getting down to business? And I agree. I mean, it's like a shiny object, oh, here's another app. Here's another thing we can do. And I agree, as you said, following your North Star, if it is going in the direction of your North Star, that's all great and gravy. And if not, maybe you're just being busy to be busy. And I'm a culprit of that. I love being busy. I thrive on, new stuff, the new shiny gadget.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side of the coin of efficiency, I really asked the question of like, what's the one thing, and this comes from Gary Keller too in his book, The One Thing. So what's the one thing you can do this week that will make everything else way easier or even unnecessary? What's that one thing each week?
Yes. And I'm going to put that in the show notes. That will be our quote from you, because that's a really good question for all of us to consider as we move into the week. And that's fantastic. Yay. Okay. So is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, or is something that you wanted to cover during this conversation that I perhaps missed?
One thing that comes to mind, it's a quote from a very prolific Silicon Valley investor. Very successful. His name's Naval Ravikant, and roughly his quote says that he says that we don't have 8 hours a day of problem solving, mental focus. He says we only have 2 hours a day. So the question to kind of like ponder as the audience, as you're listening to this on the podcast, I would say is like, what's the most value you could deliver in that 2 hours a day? What would be your $1 million per hour activity instead of a $20 per hour activity? So that really goes down the road of efficiency of like, okay, how can we maximize that peak time each day? And I find that as a person does that, they need less and less of the things they thought they did. So more of their schedule opens up.
Yeah, that's great advice too. And I know that through the pandemic, we've all kind of had that shift as well. But keeping that in mind at the foremost of our mind is great. I know I was looking at your website. You have a lot about the 80%, the 20%. And I'm a firm believer in the Pareto principle. And the fact that you only have 2 hours of productivity a day, I really think is probably right, because we're not all on the whole entire time. There are certain times when we're on and certain times when we're not. And I wager that probably we're more off than we are on, which is why a lot of us just work, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's on that note too, on not always being on, there's a concept called no time that Steve Jobs did, Albert Einstein did, where they schedule time in the week that's nothing's going on. And the idea was that was the time when the best ideas could bubble up to the surface from the subconscious mind.
Yeah, they added space to their brain so that they could actually percolate and have stuff come up. So if you don't have space, you don't have your jam. That's for sure. Space in your mind, space in your life, space in your schedule, space in your environment. It all comes down to allowing something to come forth. And if you're all crowded in, no matter whether it's your mind, body, physical space, it ain't gonna come out. So I appreciate you saying that. I believe in that.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it was so cool with your method, because I see that every day as you clear out things in the physical and how that's a link to the emotional baggage, subconscious baggage. So I love the work that you're doing with people. Because it's freeing up space, freeing up time, all the good stuff.
That's what it's about. Because guess what? If we have all that free time and that free space, we can do what we really want to do and not what we feel like we have to do. It's not about making the buck. I'll tell you what, it's not about making the buck. It's about making yourself thrive, making yourself happy. If we're happy and if we have space and time, we are giving the best that we have to everybody around us. So, that's a great final note.
Absolutely.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. I really appreciate you being here and giving us your words of wisdom. I love what you do as well. So we'll just be, fellow groupies to each other. And thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me here. It's been an absolute blast, and take care.
You got it. Thank you. Hey, thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to hear more, feel free to subscribe on the platform of your choice. Also, if you feel so inclined, I would truly appreciate a good rating from you to me. Have a stellar day.